Hi there, I'm Kelly Bennett, lead mediator at Sapere Law Mediation. You know, if you and your spouse are considering divorce, you might be thinking, is there a better way to do this? And if it's mediation, is mediation the right path for me? Well, let me first start by telling you that mediation is a facilitated negotiation where you come and you sit down in our offices and we facilitate the discussion about settlement. There's some homework that gets done in advance, and we pour over all the homework and we come with all of the information. And then we sit down and go over all of the different issues involved in your case. So if your case is a divorce, we're going to look at all your assets, your debts. If you have children, we'll deal with custody and timeshare schedules. We'll look at support, if support is an issue for child support, spousal support. The entire case will be resolved through mediation. And so that's really the goal there, is to get you from A to B and keep you outside of the courthouse. And as a mediator, mediators are neutrals. We're like Switzerland, right? And so we're not there to give you legal advice. We can't under the law. But what we can do is we can give you information. We can tell you what the law says. And also based on our experience, or based on my experience or my other mediators' experience as family law trial lawyers, and that's what we've done for many, many years, we can tell you, based on our experience, what typically happens down at the courthouse in your type of situation. So if you're asking, is mediation the right path for me? Let's talk about that. And I want to start with when mediation may not be right for you. Okay, well, one big area is if one of you and the other party, is unwilling, absolutely unwilling to communicate or to compromise. So when you come into mediation, we're having a discussion. We're having some serious discussions. If one of you is so angry, they're going to sit back and get really uptight and say, I'm just fine, whatever you want, or I'm not talking, that sort of thing. That is not a good situation for mediation. You can understand that. If one of you comes in and says it's my way or the highway, regardless of what the law says, regardless of what other options are that benefit everybody in the situation, if somebody is so entrenched and digs their heels in, mediation is not the right path. Quite frankly, that's what judges are for. That's why we have judges and why we have courtrooms. Now, another reason mediation may not be the right path for you is if you're focused on winning rather than finding a fair resolution. Look, I'm here to tell you, in family law matters, there is no winner and there is no loser. There can be losers. If you have children, those will be the losers if there's not some civil compromise going on in almost every single case. So it's all about applying the law, understanding what parties are entitled to, and then taking your goals in mediation, which is the beauty of mediation. It's not just applying the law, but you and your significant other, or ex rather, can decide to do things a little bit differently than what a judge would do down at the courthouse in order to tailor the result to your family and your needs, the other person's needs, and your children's needs. So there's no winning and losing unless you're the children in a family law case. So if that's the focus is on winning, mediation isn't going to be the right path for you because it's not about winning or losing. The last big red flag that mediation is not for you is if there has been abuse in the relationship or there's some severe power imbalance where it makes it completely unsafe for one party to negotiate and sit at the table. And what I mean unsafe, it could be a physical lack of safety because of acts of aggression and domestic violence, or it could be somebody is so intimidated. It may not be an abuse situation, but there could be someone with a medical condition or severe PTSD. We have seen that, where they are unable to sit at the table and feel like there's a pretty equal balance of power. My job as the mediator is to help everybody feel safe in the environment. And we do control the conversation. You know, people get emotional. That's not unusual. But it's when it crosses the line into threats, acts of violence, or there's some other reason that somebody doesn't feel like they're almost on equal par at the table. Why is that so important, and why would that make it really a bad idea to mediate? Because what we're going for in mediation is getting you to settlement, getting a judgment and a settlement agreement done, and we want those agreements to be what we call durable. That means lasting. So if somebody's sitting at the table and they don't feel confident and they're feeling like they're being steamrolled for whatever reason at the table, that lack of balance, that power imbalance at the table, I will bet you $1 million that 6 months later, 3 months later, a couple months later, after mediation's over, they go and they try to set aside that agreement and you start all over. So we want a durable agreement that's locked tight, solid, and when you're done, you're done. You have the certainty of knowing you're done. Let's talk for a second about when mediation is the right path for you. Well, how do we know it's a good fit? Well, first of all, if both you and the other party really want to avoid the emotional and the financial strain of a long, drawn-out court battle, mediation is a really great alternative. I'll give you an example. Here in Southern California, in Riverside County, our family courts are facing such a serious backlog. They've got over 2,800 cases waiting for trial, and we've only got 18 family court judges as of the time of this recording, which happens to be in late 2024. So we've only got 18 family court judges available to handle over 2,800 cases waiting for trial. That's nuts. So you can imagine how long it takes to get your day or half day or whatever it is in court. And by the way, because we're so backlogged and there's not enough bench officers and courtrooms available, when you do get a trial date, let's say you have a 3-day trial. You're estimating it's going to take 3 days, full days of trial. It's very uncommon that you get 3 consistent days in a row. You might get a half a day here, and then another half a day a few days later, and then maybe a full day next week, and then maybe in 2 weeks you get another full day, because we just don't have enough judges sitting on the bench and enough courtrooms to handle the demand and the press of business. So if you want to avoid that long, drawn-out emotional and financial strain, mediation is a great option. Another reason mediation might be a good fit for you is if you really want to save some money. I'll tell you, the average cost of a litigated divorce in California ranges from $35,000 to $75,000 per person. That's the average. Now, if you really get hot and contested in a divorce, it's not uncommon to drop $100,000 or more per party over several years of litigating and messing around with the family courts. We've seen cases that have gone 9, 10, 11 years, on and on and on, and $250,000 each side. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. That's your retirement. That's college funding for your children. That's some nice vacations. You don't need to be lining the pockets of everyone involved in the legal process and take your case to a broken court system if you have 2 reasonable people willing to come to the table. Now, mediation, on the other hand, unlike the court process, can be resolved in 60 to 90 days or less, and at a much smaller, a fraction of the cost. So if you and the other party are willing to get real and be civil, you can save so much time and emotional expense and monetary expense. Now, if privacy matters to you, well, mediation is really a good option, because in mediation, we keep your private matters out of the public courtroom. Family courtrooms are public places. So it's really uncomfortable when you're a private person to go down to the court. You might be arguing over custody and time-sharing arrangements between your spouse and you for your children. And you're going to go down there and you're going to stand in a courtroom full of other people waiting for their cases to be heard. You're going to be on the record with a court reporter taking down everything you say about the very intimate personal details of your private life. So if privacy matters to you, mediation is really a nice option because mediation is confidential. There are no transcripts. We're not going to be taking that information into court. There's a confidentiality statute just for mediation. It can't be brought into the courtroom. So it's a nice, confidential, private way to go. And then lastly, if you want more control over the outcome of your divorce, rather than leaving it to the government, quite frankly, you're putting it in the hands of a government judge, mediation is for you. Because in that contested divorce, like we talked about, as I said, we have this shortage of judges and courtrooms. Well, because of that, it can take 18 to 30 months to reach trial, unless you're one of those crazy cases we've had where we're at 9 to 11 years. Who wants that, right? You don't. It takes such a toll. So if you want to avoid the 18 to 30 month average to get to trial and all the stress and all the uncertainty, mediation is a really good option. And because it gives you so much more control over the outcome, your children wind up better off and you and your ex wind up better off through mediation. Why do you have much more control? Because you don't have a judge saying, this is how it's going to be. That's my orders. I don't want to hear any more from you. It's a negotiation. Even if the two of you have a hard time talking things out and because of the emotions and all of that, that's what a good mediator is all about. We're the great translators. We help you talk productively. We cut the crap out, quite frankly, right? All the nonsense. We help you get that out of the conversation so we can focus on what matters, because it's all about your lives and you know what's best for you and your family and your children. So here at Sapere Law and Mediation, we believe that mediation offers you a faster, less expensive, and much more private way to resolve your family's disputes. This is all about working together to find solutions that benefit both of you and that benefit, more importantly, your children. If this sounds like the approach you need, let's talk. Mediation really could be the right path for you.